Hey, everybody, it's Morgan of Murph and Morgan. We are taking a break during the month of December, and as we do, we are replaying some of our favorite Patreon episodes for you folks who are not members. We want you to become players and patrons in the biggest game of all, the Game of Crimes. You can find it at patreon.com/Game of Crimes. So what Murph and I decided to do was give you a sample, the entire episodes of some of the things we've done. We do several things. So this one, Murph, is 911. Remember, 911, not 119, 911. What's your emergency? And the fun part about this, right, is you never know what I'm going to play. And so you're reacting, you're hearing the call for the very first time.
199, what's your emergency? If you wonder what that's all about, you should listen in more often. One of these days I'll learn.
Yeah. So what we're doing during the month of December is we're picking out something from each of the different types of content we do. And this one is 911, what's your emergency? We play a call. You listen to the call, you put your listening ears on, and you become an auditory investigator. And you hear, can you hear deception? Can you hear truthfulness? What do you think? So what we're going to do for these is just simply let you guys hear it. But remember, if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, go to patreon.com/Game of Crimes. That's patreon.com/Game of Crimes and join us there.
And our regular episodes of Game of Crimes will be starting up again on January 2nd, 2023. So come back and hear the newest guests we have on. We got some butt kickers coming.
We do. And folks, so let's get ready. Let's get ready to play the biggest, baddest, most dangerous game of all, the 911 version of Game of Crimes. Welcome, amigos, amigas, players, playerettes, and all power to the people of Ukraine. Go kick Vladimir's ass.
Absolutely. Please. We're with you in spirit.
We're with you, man. If I was over there, I'd be saddling up, especially with Miss Ukraine. I'd be her personal bodyguard. I'll be your body man.
I think she might be your bodyguard. I've seen her. She's pretty tough.
She probably kicked my ass, just like every woman we've had on this podcast could kick our ass, Steve. But
yes, they could.
On the other podcast. But this is the Patreon side. This is, hey, to you players and playerettes. This is our second installment of our 911, What's Your Emergency? And I've got another 911 call. Murph has not heard, has no clue what it's about. Steve, confirm that you have no clue.
All I heard was 911, what's your emergency? And then you cut it off.
No, Steve, I meant you have no clue, period.
Well, you see who I'm working with, so that tells you a lot right there, right?
Tells a lot about your judgment, yeah. So, hey, now, the deal is, though, some of these calls they could be truthful, they could be deceptive, and a couple of these, I have one call, Steve. I'm not going to tell you, obviously, which one it is, but it's going to throw you for a loop because you're going to think it's one thing. It's going to absolutely be another. And
okay.
there will be clues, but in this one, too. So remember, last month we did Michael Roseborough, I think, yeah, Roseborough. And he was convicted of killing his wife because he walks out and he says, hey, I just found my wife in the pool. And, of course, we had all sorts of problems with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So This is one. I'm not gonna tell you anything about it. We're just gonna play. We'll start off again by playing the 911 call. Then we'll work our way through it. Okay.
Okay.
And this time I listened to the transcript and I listened to the call and I made sure there were no pool incidents. You know, I was a lifeguard. Made sure that the transcript didn't miss something vital this time in the clues. So
okay.
Here we go. Standing by. Here we go. Now somebody's dialing. Hang on, here comes the 911, and it's about 3 minutes long, so you got to hear the whole thing. So here we go.
Okay.
911, where is your emergency? Where? Listen to me. Where are you at?
530 Park Place.
530 Park Place?
Yeah.
Okay, what's going on? What's going on?
Hold on. Just a second, Anna.
I can't send you help yet.
My son has killed my wife.
He killed your wife?
My son.
Okay, how did he kill your wife?
I don't know. I just found her. He had a crazy story, and now he has stolen the car, and I went looking for her.
Okay.
And she's in the garage, and she's been hit in the head. She's dead.
Okay, so she's not breathing at all?
No, she's dead.
Okay.
Come on.
What made you think your son...
He's driving a white Infiniti.
When did your son leave?
Just now.
Okay, he just left?
Yes.
Okay, what color type of vehicle did he leave in? He said a white Infiniti?
He's driving a 2011 white Infiniti G37.
G37?
Yes.
Okay. What direction did he leave going?
I have no idea.
You don't know what direction he left going? Do you know where he might be going?
No. No.
Now, he said he hit your wife. Do you know what he hit her with?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. She's laying in the garage.
Okay.
She has something over her head, and I lifted it up. Her head is smashed so bad.
Okay. Like a tarp over her head?
No, a blanket.
Okay. Do you have like a license plate number by chance?
I don't know right
Okay.
now.
That's fine.
Let me go.
Okay.
Call your mom. Tell her to come get you.
Okay. How old is your son?
He's 17.
17? What's your son's name?
Josh Bryant.
Josh Bryant?
Yes.
Okay. Listen, I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay? Is that another? I said I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay? Is that another kid out here in the background?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, do you think he might be on his way back to you guys?
No, he's left. He's run because of what he did.
Okay. Do you have any idea what kind of caused this to happen? It's okay if you don't. Okay.
I went to get my daughter from the gym. I'm gone 30 minutes, and I come back. We were supposed to go to a pitching lesson.
Okay. And when you just got back home?
Yeah, I got home, and he gave me excuses about where she went. And I needed to work on the dinner. And I started getting suspicious, and then I checked her phone, and the cops are here.
Okay, all right.
All right, so that's the call. About 3 minutes and 14 seconds, and they hang up after that. And so, we have a report of a homicide. So what's your first impression?
If it were not for the children crying in the background, I would say he killed his wife. But hearing the reaction of the children back there, the crying, and I'm guessing that's the daughter he went to pick up. I wish the cops had been just another minute or so getting there because he was getting ready to tell the details when he got suspicious, and then that was it. I'm undecided right now. We need a lot more information.
Yeah, so because one of the things he says, they say, "Where's your emergency?" 530 Park Place. Okay, what's going on? So let me throw this out for you to consider, because remember when we talked in the first case, he said, "I just found my wife." Here's some similar language. I don't know. I just found her. He's got a crazy story, and now he's stolen the car. He goes, "I just found her." Tick tock, tick tock.
I know. Well, he says, later in the conversation, he says he started dinner. He had to work on the dinner.
Yeah.
And he had been gone for about 30 minutes. I guess it wouldn't be unusual. Well, it would be in my house. First thing I do is say, "Hey, honey, I'm home." It seems like you would go look for your wife. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe it's going to be interesting to see how long she was dead before he made the phone call.
Yeah. So when you're responding, so the other thing too is you've heard in the background, all you have is the dispatcher, and all you have is the guy's story that calls in. By the way, his name is Brad Bryant, and this happened, I believe, in April of 2017. So this is just relatively, new case, about 5 years ago. But a lot of this comes out. This happened in Edmond, Oklahoma. So you've got the call that comes in, and so just walk through it for a second. Let me ask you this: how would you react if you came home? And here's what he says too. He says he doesn't say anything. He just says, "What's going on?" He says, "My son has killed my wife." How did he kill your wife? I don't know. I just found her. He's got a crazy story. And the other thing, they said, "Okay, she's not breathing at all." No, she's dead. And that was one of the things from the initial, from the first episode we did, where he just accepts the finality of death. It's like, no, she's dead. So you come home, and like you say, what would you do if you had found somebody in this similar situation?
Oh, I'm going to have my cell phone, and I'm going to do whatever I can to render first aid. Like we talked last time, you got to make sure their airway is clear so they can breathe. And then you're going to start CPR, but at the same time, I'm going to be calling 911, which is relatively easy on cell phones. And one other thing, his reaction during the initial phone call was upset and crying, but as the phone call went along, he calmed right down, didn't he? Like if that was my wife, holy cow, I'm not sure I'd be coherent trying to tell you where I was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so this is one of those quandaries too, because you'll look at it and there are indicators that say, okay, there's some things in here that sound deceptive, because the first one, you called the first one very easily. This guy, he was guilty. You could tell that just by the way he called. This one, there's some additional emotion, some of the same words like I just found this, and like you said, that tends to get calmer as the call went on, providing more details. And then the other thing too is he's laying it on his son's feet. It's kind of like, no, my son did it. So that you think about that, you go, if you had come home and killed your wife, would you blame it on the son?
No, that's really strange. I mean, unless he saw the kid do it, which.
And see, the thing you don't have also with the call is you have no history of what's went on between these folks. The dispatcher. Now, the other thing too, people will notice too, is that the dispatcher's typing. You're thinking, well, how can there be people calling? She didn't dispatch the call. In a lot of places like this, what happens is you'll have somebody listening on the phone call and typing and getting information. Right. Somebody else is dispatching the call. I mean, they're listening. They're keyed in on the same line. They're hearing what's going on, and they're dispatching units. Units go here to 530 Park Place. Report of a woman down. It's whatever it may be. They're going to roll ambulance and police, because she said she's got a lot of help coming. So,
yeah.
What other observations did you make during the call?
He was telling somebody to leave, to call their parents. So I'm guessing that was either the son's girlfriend or a friend of the daughter that he went and picked up. And he was, I would really be, I'll be honest, if it's me, I will be telling those kids in the bathroom to shut the hell up or go into another room. I've got to get this taken care of. My daughters would be incoherent as well. They'd be so upset that something happened to their mother. I mean, there would be some massive wailing and screaming shit going on.
Yeah, because the other thing to think about too is, I mean, this is something you think about afterwards. But one of the first times I heard this, it says, call your mom and tell her to come get you. Actually, one of my first thought was the guy's divorced and remarried. This is his new wife. Whether it's a son or a stepson, maybe that, but he's like, call your mom and tell her to come get you.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But he says, but call your mom instead of saying call mom and tell her to come get you. It's like when he says your mom, it's like there's a girl here, but he says, I can't talk yet. My son has killed my car. He says, but he does say, I went to get my daughter from the gym. I'm gone 30 minutes. So he's got his daughter. So the question is the girl on the phone that we hear on the background, is that his daughter? But then again, that sounds strange to say call your mom instead of call mom. Maybe after being divorced, it's like, I guess I said that too. We got divorced, we married. Hey, what does your mom say?
Yeah, and I'll do the exact same thing. I don't refer to her as mom. I have other names I call her by, but if I'm talking to the boys, it's your mom.
Your mom, Steve. We're kinder, gentler people too.
Yes,
so the initial response is, it's kind of, you wonder either that. So come up with two things. Either the wounds must be so bad it was obvious she was dead and there was no chance of resuscitating her, or he's telling us that that's the case. Now, I want you to do is listen at the very start before the operator even picks up. This is a feature, you have very little of it, and I'll have calls later to where you can actually hear people talking before the operator picks up. But because they use what they call a trunked line system in a lot of these places, especially in the old systems, copper wire, if you didn't have a trunk line system, like a way of handling multiple calls, and they would come in and kind of be holding there as the call went through, you'd get a busy signal if you tried to dial 911. So listen right here. I'm going to just play just the first couple seconds. But listen before the operator says anything, and listen to the breathing in the background. Here we go.
Okay.
911, where is your emergency?
Yeah. So there was some breathing. He says, "Oh God," right after she answered, but you heard the phone being answered, and he's saying, "Oh God," after that. So this is something that actually made some cases before, is that you could hear people talking in the background before the 911 call was answered, because many people thought they don't hear you until the operator picks up, which is not correct. And now some of the new digital systems I think are a little different, but the minute you hit that call goes through at the speed of light, it starts recording. So the minute you hit that final 911, the call starts recording. So I might say dial 911 and say, "Hey, Steve, get your shit together, because we got to make the cops believe this. 911, what's your emergency?" "Oh my God, I've just been shot,"
Right.
That's called evidence.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I didn't know that we did that.
Yeah, here, you're even learning some stuff there. Okay.
Occasionally.
Let's walk through just a little bit more of this up until we talk about how he found her.
Listen to me. Where are you at?
530 Park Place.
530 Park Place?
Yeah,
okay, what's going on? What's going on?
Hold on. Just a second, Anna.
I can't send you help yet.
My son has killed my wife.
He killed your wife?
My son.
Okay, how did he kill your wife?
I don't know. I just found her. He had a crazy story, and now he has stolen the car, and I went looking for her.
All right, so did you pick up anything different on that next piece of it?
Well, he said his son killed his wife, and they said how, and he says, "I don't know, but she's dead." And once again, he went from semi-hysterical to very calm very quickly. I mean, it's just like from one sentence to the next. Mm-hmm. And, when he talked to his daughter, when he said something to Anna, that was very calm.
Yeah. Basically said, "Hold on just a second, Anna. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a little acting going on here, I'm sure.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because I just know how I'd react,
Yeah. But is that how everyone else would react?
I don't know. We're going to find out, ain't we?
We're going to find out. So I think this next part, too, is interesting because he goes, "I don't know. I just found her. He's got a crazy story. Now he's stolen the car, and I went looking for her." So let's talk about, again, it's that when you find the body, and what do you do with it? It's like Rosen, a Roseboro. I mean, do you just leave the body there? Do you try to attempt CPR? Let's just listen to the next couple few seconds here.
Okay.
She's in the garage, and she's been hit in the head. She's dead.
Okay. She's not breathing at all?
No, she's dead.
Okay. What made you think your son...
He's driving a white Infiniti.
When did your son leave?
So something I thought was interesting is he didn't answer the question. And I'm not trying to set you, I'm just throwing out stuff for you to think. But he says, "What made you think your son did it?" And he answers, "He's driving a white Infiniti." Mm-hmm. That's not why his son did it. Now, you could say, too, is maybe he's distraught. Maybe, because, she gets into it later. But the question is, what made you think your son did it? Because that's very important. What made you think your son did it? Did you see something? Like you said, if it's gone before he gets home, he couldn't have seen his son do it. Otherwise, he should have been calling saying, "My son just killed my wife." Now, it's interesting, too. That's why I think this is a divorce situation. And as we're sitting here, I'm going to pull up some more info. But it's like, rather than saying, "Hey, he just killed his mom," he says, he just killed my wife. That's what makes me think when I first heard this, that this was a divorced and kind of remarried family. What do you think?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, because I hate to say this, but you were right on that, I think. And also, why did he say the son stole my car? My son just took off in the car. This is probably what I would say if I thought my son had killed my wife or his mother. Mm-hmm. So it's like he's inciting the situation to a certain degree by now saying, not only did he kill my wife, but he stole my car.
Because you think, technically kids, I don't know if they could really steal it, maybe joyriding, temporary deprivation, but it's kind of like you do kind of cross the line. So he stole the car. Did you tell him he couldn't drive the car?
Right. And he's 17 years old. You're presuming he has a driver's license and is allowed to drive the car.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's hear a little bit more about the car.
Just now.
Okay, he just left?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of vehicle did he leave in? He said a white Infiniti?
He's driving a 2011 white Infiniti G37.
G37?
Yes.
Okay. What direction did he leave going?
I have no idea.
You don't know what direction he left going? Do you know where he might be going?
No.
Now,
So it's kind of like, they're getting a lot of information out the car. Now, I don't know a lot about Infinitis, but I think an Infiniti G37 is kind of an expensive car. That sounds like
Sounds like the sporty model, doesn't it?
Yeah, in fact, through the magic of Al Gore's amazing internet, let's see what it is. Infiniti G37. Oh, yeah.
Is it 2-door or 4-door?
It is a 2-door. It's a sporty little thing. Yeah, so a 2011 white Infiniti. A used one right now with 53,000 miles on it is going for $19,000.
Wow.
The 2013 Infiniti G37 2-door. Yeah, it's just definitely kind of a sporty 2-door. I think this one here, let me see here. Yeah, I think this is the sport one. Because the other thing too is, when you're responding, now this one shows like it's a 4-door. So 2000 Infiniti.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
G37. Yeah. No, G37 is a 2-door sport. That's right. He says it's a G37. So let's see, where did that G37 go to?
See. Well, I'm looking at a 2009 G37 was a 4-door. You could get it as a sedan.
Okay. Well, in any event, he's obviously got a good car. He left in it. A lot of discussion about the car. They obviously don't have the tag number, which dispatchers can look up the tag number. But let's listen now about, because she does ask a good question. I'll cover that in a second, but let's just kind of go through the next piece of this where they talk about what got into it, what happened to the wife. So let's hear this part.
Said he hit your wife. Do you know what he hit her with?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. She's laying in the garage.
Okay.
She has something over her head, and I lifted it up. Her head is smashed so bad.
Let me just stop there. Because I got to tell you, the first time I heard it, when I heard that her head is smashed so bad, it's like that's almost stated like matter of factly.
You're exactly right, because that would have been a triggering event to create more sobs. Saying something like that for normal people, if it was a real event, I would think.
Mm-hmm. So let's listen just a little bit more.
Okay. Like a tarp over her head?
No, a blanket.
Okay. Do you have like a license plate number by chance?
I don't know.
Okay.
Right now.
That's fine. Okay.
Call your mom. Tell her to come get you.
Okay.
So, you get the kid's obviously distressed in the background because, he's saying, hey, call your mom and tell her to come get you. And you hear in the background saying, Mama, come get me, please. That kid's traumatized. We don't know exactly what's happened yet. And look, the dispatchers have to react as though the person calling is telling the truth. But
right.
Even then, even sometimes, we'll cover later on, because everybody knows the outcome, but we'll cover a very famous call. It was the John Benet Ramsey 911 call by Patsy Ramsey. Mm-hmm. Even to this day, the dispatcher, when listening to that, is like, there's something wrong there. So sometimes you do get that feeling. Sometimes when you hear that call, there's something wrong. But here, I think the dispatcher's doing a pretty good job staying level. And so you hear a lot of typing in the background. Well, they have to create this record. It goes into what they call the computer-aided dispatch. So that's what they use to log the details of the 911 call, the conversations, like the description. She's not writing a narrative, but she's more like just putting in notes. White G37, son is 17, doing this. You kind of got just like the bullet points of what's going on so they can look at later. And he says, Mama, come get me. So let's talk about the son now.
How old is your son?
He's 17.
17? What's your son's name?
Josh Bryant.
Josh Bryant?
Yes.
Okay. Listen, I have.
So just listen to these next three things. I don't know if he's distracted or if he's not listening, but the dispatcher 3 times says, hey, I've got lots of help coming. Let's listen to that piece.
Lots of help headed that way to you, okay? Is that another? I said I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay? Is that another kid out here in the background?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what's interesting, if somebody said, is that another kid in the background? It's almost like if it was my kid or if it was my daughter, I'd say that's my daughter, maybe she figured it out, but it's just the phrasing was a little different. It's kind of like, hey, is that another kid I hear in the background? Yes. But go ahead.
I was going to say, back up to that previous section we listened to where he said, you don't have to back up, but I'm backing up in my thoughts here. He originally said his wife was covered with something, and then he got specific when she asked and said a blanket. I mean, why wouldn't you say her head's covered with a blanket? I lifted the blanket, or something like that. And then
I know what you're talking about. It's right about here. Let me play that for you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What direction did he leave going?
I have no idea.
You don't know what direction he left going? Do you know where he might be going?
No.
Now, you said he hit your wife. Do you know what he hit her with?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. She's laying in the garage.
Okay.
She has something over her head, and I lifted it up. Her head is smashed so bad.
That's what you're getting right there. At first he says she had something over her head. I lifted it up. And then she asked, like a tarp? No, a blanket.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you say that? I mean, he's being so specific about other details, especially the car, his son. Also, if you notice when he made the statement, call your mother, that kid was already on the phone. Because immediately she says, come and get me.
Yep.
If my daughter called and was telling me something like that on the phone, she wouldn't need to tell me to come and get her. I'm on the way. I don't know what that's got to do with the murder, but I mean the death.
Yeah,
it's a murder yet.
We don't know. Well, all we know is but here's what we do. So now think of it. We'll think of this in the end. I'll just work through a little bit more of the call here. So, but here's one part where I thought the dispatcher was really good about what she was doing. Let me see if I can get to it here.
Or by chance?
I don't know.
Okay,
right now.
That's fine. Okay.
Call your mom. Tell her to come get you.
Okay. How old is your son?
He's 17.
17? What's your son's name?
Actually, let me...
Joshua.
I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay? I said I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay? Is that another kid out here in the background?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, do you think he might be on his way back to you guys?
No, he's left. He's run because of what he did.
Okay. Do you have any idea what kind of caused this to happen? It's okay if you don't. Okay.
So something I thought was interesting in that, because, words mean things, language mean things. So, but I thought the dispatcher did a good job by saying, do you think he might be on his way back to you guys? Because now she's concerned about his safety. Right. Is now we're trying to find out, is there something going on? Has this been a long simmering dispute? Has something happened? But one of the things that I this is one of the things you find out when you do interview and interrogation. People tend to minimize language. Like, they don't say I stole something. They say I borrowed it. They don't say I killed somebody. They say I accidentally hurt somebody. They tend to minimize language. And I don't know if the father is doing this because of him or if he's doing it because of his son. I mean, I do know the outcome, I'm saying, but when I was originally listening to this, I'd listened to it cold, working on another project because I wanted to get the feel for what it was. But he says, now she asks, okay, now do you think he might be on his way back to you guys? The father has replied, no, he's left because of what he had did. I would say something like, he left because he killed my wife.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean, that he left because of what he had did? What did he do?
Well, and that's, so just like you said, that's softening the incident right there. He's left because of what he did. But when he talked about her head is smashed so bad, that's just that's a horrific statement to say, and I guess people react differently when they see things like that. And why was there a blanket over? Did the kid do that? If he's the murderer, did he do it, or did Daddy do it because that way he didn't have to look at her?
Well, and that's a common artifact too, it seems. That's when, let's assume that you had found this body out somewhere instead of at the home, and you'd found it with a blanket over them or over their head. That is really when you look at profiling and you look at what people do as they react to stuff, that tends to show you that there is a vested interest in that person, that there is some relationship because they covered them up because either they care about them, they don't want to see their face. If you're a cold-blooded killer, you don't really care. You just dump the body out. I mean, did Gary Ridgway ever cover people up? Did Ted Bundy? It was like, no, to them, you're an object to be desired, to be obtained, Ed Kemper. So anytime you see somebody covering up, it starts to say, hey, there's a proprietary interest here. There's some kind of relationship between the two. But I want you to listen. Go ahead.
Our first 911 call that we did last time, that guy killed his wife and he didn't have her covered up. He just wanted to get rid of her.
But she was still in the pool, and the dispatcher said, I thought you had her out of the pool. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Oops, I forgot which lie I was telling right there.
He couldn't keep his story straight. Let's listen to this next part because I want to get through just the part about what he said he was doing here.
Went to get my daughter from the gym. I'm gone 30 minutes, and I come back. We were supposed to go to a pitching lesson.
Now, I'll stop you right there. A lot of times there's extraneous information. Who cares that you had to go to a pitching lesson?
Well, and now when you add that with he had to get dinner, well, which one are you going to do? You're starting to get a lot on your plate there. Right?
So let's listen to the last part of this.
When you just got back home?
Yeah, I got home and he gave me excuses about where she went. And I needed to work on the dinner. And I started getting suspicious, and then I checked her phone, and the cops are here.
Okay, all right.
So we learned a couple things. Yeah. So we learned a couple things, which is, okay, you just got back home. He says, yeah, I got home. So now we know that the father had contact with the son when he came home, because that wasn't clear to me at the beginning, really. Because it says,
crazy story.
Yeah, I said, I don't know, I just found her. He's got a crazy story, and now he's stolen the car. So, there's some indication, but it's like, when things are in motion, sometimes you might miss a little piece of that. And so then he goes, I got home and he gave me excuses about where she went, and I needed to work on the dinner. I started getting suspicious, and then I checked her phone, and the cops are here. So yeah, we lost. That's the end of the call. So now we have, that's all you got, Murph. You're the responding officer. What's going through your mind as you're showing up there? You don't hear the call as the responding officer. Right. That's the detective or somebody's going to pull that later. So you're responding there. So when you go there, you got to assume, you take the father's story at face value to begin with until you can find reasons not to believe him. But it's like, okay, the son did it. So, what are a couple of things you might do responding there first?
Well, first thing you're going to do is check on the victim to make sure there's no life. If there's a possibility, that you could save them, you might start CPR. But if you see that if the wife's head really was smashed that bad, and you're no pulse, and not to get so graphic, but you may see brain matter or whatever that come out of where she was struck, which would be a really severe blow. To crack the skull and to get the brain matter coming out, that's pretty tough. But if there's no possibility of reviving the victim, you got to start securing the crime scene, because that's what this is a crime scene. Even if it was accidental death, it's a crime scene until you prove there was no crime committed.
Absolutely. You treat every death investigation as a homicide, because that ensures you collect all the evidence you need, because you don't get a second chance to go back. In fact, there is a case, it's a cold case I've been working on, trying to get movement on it, but it deals with and this is why the call is so important, because in this 911 call, and I may play it for one of the podcasts here later, the suspect is the husband. He's a doctor, and he says, no, my wife's dead, I'm a doctor. She committed suicide. And the problem you have, it's called an anchoring statement. If I told you, hey, Steve, I need you to go to this house and look on this, it's a suicide. It anchors it in your mind that it's a suicide. And I always used to tell people, I don't care what you tell me. Ground zero, you go there. If it's a dead body or if it's an injured body, an injured person, this is a crime. This is a crime until, you prove to me otherwise, because otherwise to me, it's a crime. So many cases have been, hurt from the beginning because somebody anchors that in their mind. Oh, it's a suicide. Don't worry about it. She committed suicide. So you don't, and I guarantee you, there's cases they don't collect the evidence. They miss collecting vital evidence like computers and other stuff, and especially of the husband. Oh, well, I'm a doctor. She committed suicide. So, and then you can hear the dispatcher saying on this one call, "Oh, okay, I guess you know best." It's like, nah, need you to attempt, resuscitation.
Right. Absolutely. That's just. Even as a police officer, if you shoot someone or you get in a tussle and they become injured, you still have responsibility to render first aid. I mean, if that's your wife, I would do everything I could to try and save her.
So let's take a vote. So you folks that are listening, we can't count your votes, but all right.
I'm voting for him being the murderer.
You're voting for him being the murderer. Okay. And you other folks, what do you guys say?
They agree with me.
All right. Well, let's do the big reveal.
Okay, here we go. Here's the rest of the story.
Police arrested the son, Joshua Bryant, for first-degree murder.
Uh-huh.
It was the son.
Oh, really?
Yep. But let's walk through it. So I gave you the ending. So let's walk through some of what happened as the events unfold. So the father didn't do it. But he had taken off. He was caught about midnight. This happened, I think, around 5:30 in the evening, and then they were called to the 500 Park Place just south of the University of Central Oklahoma, just shortly before 9 p.m. So I should have told you that the time the call came in. So it came in at 9 p.m. And so this all happens. He takes off in the car, and police start immediately looking for Bryant. He was arrested by Blackwell police along I-35 just after midnight. When police questioned Bryant, he repeatedly told investigators that while his father was out of the house picking up another family member, he hit his stepmother, 54-year-old Catherine Bryant, in the head with a baseball bat, knocking her unconscious. He then admitted to dragging her to the garage and shooting her in the head with a rifle.
Damn. Wow. Okay, keep going.
Some other. Here we go. Some other details came out. Let me pull this up here. The teen told police that he left the home in his stepmother's vehicle. He's being held on a complaint of first-degree murder. Is expected to be charged as an adult. She was a public school teacher, so they talked about. They talked about him. They put out a statement on him. His name was Joshua Bryant. Been arrested in connection with the homicide. He was enrolled at. Here's the interesting thing. This is where you start getting clues if you start reading this. So I'm going to read this to you and tell me the clue you pull out of it. Bryant has been enrolled at Boulevard Academy since August 2016. Boulevard is Edmond Public Schools' alternative high school, which focuses on academic credit recovery.
I think we call that Douglas School there in Loudoun County, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's where you send your problem children.
So we're starting to get an idea, and it starts to paint a picture. So it sounds like he was a problem kid, and then we start knowing now that she is the stepmother. So you start thinking, okay, there's always that. There was with our family too, with my wife's first son. Jason, there was some tension there. We had to work through it. He moved out when he was 18. He said, "I've had enough of this," But then he moved back, and it's kind of like, okay, my parents were smarter than what I gave them credit for. But yeah. So you start thinking, okay, there's a troubled history here. So then the question starts becoming, really what happened? What happened that night when they called in? So when they arrived on the scene, right? So after being taken into custody. Here's what happened. Here's according to the probable cause affidavit, because when you arrest somebody, you hold them in jail. The first thing you do is you file your probable cause affidavit, which allows you to hold them while you get, basically, you get the warrant signed by the county attorney, get a judge to sign it. So now you can officially charge them, but you can hold them on the probable cause warrant. A judge will look at the warrant and say, yep, there's enough probable cause to hold you. We're going to have we're going to have the arraignment. So here's what it says. According to the probable cause affidavit, Bryant admitted to hitting his stepmother in the head with a baseball bat, which caused her to lose consciousness. Court documents state that Bryant sat on the kitchen floor for about 5 minutes to contemplate, quote, his next actions. At that point, the affidavit states that Bryant dragged Catherine into the garage before going into the living room for another 5 minutes to try and make a decision on what to do.
Authorities say Bryant grabbed a .22 caliber rifle from the closet and shot Catherine Bryant in the back of the head. Here's the creepy thing. She's dead. I mean, obviously you got a gunshot, you've been hit in the head, you got a gunshot to the head. She's most likely dead. The defendant then fled the scene after conversations with his father, Bradley Bryant, and stated that he was just trying to clear his head. The affidavit does not provide a motive for murder. So here's my question, and it goes back to, you caught on it, but I think I was misleading you maybe a little bit or adding emphasis, but it goes back to, do you have, okay, now, do you think he might be on his way back to you guys? The dispatcher, the father, no, he left because of what he had did. I'm wondering by this point, Steve, and I don't know because they don't really say it in the documents. I wonder if the father knew already. I mean, he knew that his son. I think he knew for sure that his son had killed him, and that's his minimization of his son. That's his son because it's his same name. It's the stepmother, so he's using that minimization language because he's come to the conclusion that, hey, my son just killed my wife.
Yeah, but initially he said he dimed his kid right out.
Yeah,
initially, and then his language did soften later in the 911 call. I'm shocked at at the father's, the husband's reaction, because oh my gosh, I mean that explains a lot. If he's thinking she's been hit in the head, but it sounds like he may have seen 22 is an entry wound is not going to cause brain matter to come out. And,
no.
The 22 may not have penetrated all the way through where there's an exit wound. I don't know. There's you could what if it all day, but I thought it was going to be the father instead of the son. I thought he was just diming his kid out, and then I got to thinking, well, I wouldn't dime my kid out. I don't think. I mean, I'd hold them accountable, but
I'd drag their ass into the police station, or whatever. You're not going to let your kid get away with murder.
Yeah.
Well. So here's some more details. So they go to court, and what happens was he pled guilty, and he's sentenced to 40 years in prison for the murder of his stepmother. So this actually took about 2 years. So 2 years after his stepmother was beaten and shot to death, an Edmond man pleaded guilty to committing the murder when he was 17. Joshua Bryant, now 19, entered the plea Wednesday in an Oklahoma County District Court. He agreed to a sentence of 40 years, so obviously they plea bargained it away. Mm-hmm. I don't say plea bargained it away because he's going to do 40 years. Now, the question is, how many of those 40 years does he actually do? I don't know what the parole situation is in Oklahoma, if you got to do all your time or if you get good credit or credit for good behavior. But right. Bryant told Edmond police he hit Catherine Dina Bryant in the head with an aluminum bat in their home April 4th, 2017. He then dragged her to the garage, shot her in the head. Now, here's what the defense attorney says, but this is interesting, the facts of the case. Defense attorney Scott Adams said Bryant was suffering from mental illness at the time of the incident. I don't think so. But no specific for the reason for the attack has been discovered. Bryant told investigators he and his stepmother had a good relationship and they didn't argue before he killed her.
Well, damn, I'm wondering what he'd done to her if they did have a bad relationship. If they have a good relationship, that's what he did to her. Good Lord.
Mm-hmm. Testimony in the case reported Bryant had experienced depression and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I think there's a danger in putting too many labels on kids because that kind of gives an excuse. Okay, you might have ADHD, but the question is, and it's the old thing they call the McNaughton rule to determine whether or not you were sane or insane at the time of a crime. Could you appreciate the difference between right or wrong when the crime was committed? And if you knew what you were doing was wrong, whether through testimony or through evidence of actions, then hey, you're fine. In fact, one of the ways I used to make sure that they wouldn't use an insanity defense, let me tell you, an insanity defense is hard to do. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get through. I mean, you really got to be insane. But I would simply say, well, after you like say, for example, like this, after you shot her, why'd you run? Well, because I was afraid the cops were going to arrest me. If you weren't concerned about right or wrong, then you wouldn't care if the cops would arrest you. So that was a quick way, easy way to find out, hey, do you know the difference between right or wrong? Well, apparently you do. You know why? Because you're fleeing because you know what you did was wrong and the cops are going to arrest you.
And on top of that, he took a 5-minute interlude twice to determine what his next actions are going to be.
Well, and that's where you get into premeditation now. Now, he hit her once. Had he hit her just in a fit of rage, that could have been like involuntary manslaughter. It could have been second-degree murder, whatever, Oklahoma might have. But when you sit and you contemplate, even, and the law says too, with malice aforethought, in a lot of places, if there is no matter how brief it is, even if it's for 2 seconds and you contemplate, I don't like Murph. I'm going to whack him. Yeah. He hit me in the face. I thought about it. I don't like you. Now, if you hit me and I turn around and I hit you right away and we're in it, this is where you see the bar fights. I hit you, you hit me, somebody goes down. That's heat of the moment. Heat of passion is what they say. Of course, no heat of passion between us. It would just have to be heat of the moment. So.
There you go. That's for you.
No, don't let the good looks fool you, pal. All right. So in this case now, no matter how small that planning window is, but this one is, this is an eternity. He's got 5 minutes to think about it. Mm-hmm. He thinks about it for 5 minutes. He goes back. He gets the gun. So he takes that deliberate step. He takes the gun. He shoots her and he drags her, basically he dragged her into the garage and then he shot her and then he covered her up with a blanket. So, but see, now the covering up with the blanket too, that the other thing that tells me is he is not covering up to prevent people from finding her. They know they're going to find her. I think he covered her up because he did. I think he cared about her. I don't think it was an ongoing huge bad relationship where they're at each other's throats all the time. I think it was true. I don't think they did argue based on what they said, but I think it hurt him personally. He's a killer, but it hurt him personally. So he covered up the face because he didn't want to see her face because that was too emotional for him. That's what I think.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I don't understand why he killed her, though. If they hadn't argued, they had a good relationship. I have no idea. I don't even know. You could almost say that there briefly he did have an insane moment. But the fact that he stopped twice to contemplate his next moves, once after he hit her, he waited for 5 minutes, then he drags her to the garage and then waits another 5 minutes, and then he takes the gun and kills her. Or, she may have already been dead, but he made sure.
Right.
So that doesn't sound like a person that's insane. Well, that was a good one, or a tough one.
That was a tough one. See, I didn't want to make it so easy on you as to where you go, okay, this one's, and it's not going to be a pattern like, okay, guilty, not guilty, guilty, not guilty. I'm going to throw, I did some research. I got some ones to throw at you here.
All right, throw them on out here.
We already did it.
Oh, that's it?
We're only going to do one call.
Okay. I have to say, though, I was surprised that the son did it. I couldn't figure out why the daddy wanted to dime out his kid, but I thought it was going to be the father, the husband.
But I tell you, when I had problems the first time too, because I could not come to a definitive conclusion is that, he did it or he didn't do it because of the language. Like, I just got home. Well, we've heard that before. He didn't attempt to resuscitate her. Well, no, she's dead. He's accepted the finality to where, the 7 stages of denial. It's like the first thing is, anger and disbelief. No, she's not dead. Can't be dead. When you get bad news, no, can't be. You don't want to accept death, but he's immediately accepted death. And like you said, then the other thing that struck me was just how calm he was during this whole time. So
did you read anywhere where the gun was found after the cops got there?
No, I didn't.
Because obviously he didn't see the gun. The father didn't see the gun in the garage. Because he was reporting that he thought she'd been bashed in the head, so the kid must have had the presence of mind to put the gun back where he found it.
That, or it was, they didn't say anything. It doesn't say anything about being recovered in the vehicle. But because the other thing too is there on some of these, it's hard to find cases to where you've got the full 911 call and the full case details too. So some of these are a little. Right. And Edmond, Oklahoma is not a big town. Here's how we can do this. By the way, let's try this. Hey Siri, what is the population of Edmond, Oklahoma?
As of 2020, the population of Edmond was 94,428.
That's a big town.
Yeah,
it's a big town
I grew up in.
Yeah, bigger. It's almost bigger than the state of Kansas when I was growing up too. That was Oklahoma. But the other, like I said, so a lot of times it's tough to get all the information out, but the key thing though is that, see, if you're going down there as the police officer and you're coming back as the or you're going down as a police officer, you don't hear the 911 call. The dispatcher hears the 911 call. Detectives, even sometimes detectives will not pull the 911 call before they go there. So they're going down there and they're operating from the same thing, same frame of reference that the responding police officer has. That's why one of the things, this book that I red. I'm trying to. Man, it has been a long few days. I haven't talked this much since I don't know when.
Since last week. We know you like to talk. That's all right. Everybody knows it.
Oh, I know, but man, my throat. I've had a bottle of water here. I've gone through, my water bottle, but I read a book called, basically it was analyzing 911 calls, and this chief in Ohio and this FBI PhD analyst in the behavioral science unit, they actually went through and they analyzed 911 calls to start looking for this stuff. And one of the key suggestions is that one of the things you do, see, as the detective, there's not a rush to get to the scene. If somebody's dead, they're dead. They're not going anywhere. I don't want to speak cavalierly, but it's just a fact. They're not going anywhere. You secure the crime scene. Now they're suggesting before you even interview people and do stuff, you got to go back and listen to that 911 call. And there's a whole sheet for how you score the call to determine, is it truthful or deceptive? Or like you say, is it undetermined? And so there's some very interesting things. So let's do this before we close out. Now that everybody is armed with the information, let's play this call one more time and see what you guys see. If you hear anything new because of it, see if your mind is still the same or see if we changed your mind. Here we go.
All right.
911, where is your martini? Listen to me. Where are you at?
530 Park Place.
530 Park Place?
Yeah,
okay, what's going on? What's going on?
Hold on. Just a second, Anna.
I can't send you help yet.
My son has killed my wife.
He killed your wife?
My son.
Okay, how did he kill your wife?
I don't know. I just found her. He had a crazy story, and now he has stolen the car, and I went looking for her.
Okay.
She's in the garage, and she's been hit in the head. She's dead.
Okay, so she's not breathing at all?
No, she's dead.
Okay.
Come on.
What made you think your son...
He's driving a white Infiniti.
When did your son leave?
Just now.
Okay, he just left?
Yes.
Okay, what color type of vehicle did he leave in? He said a white Infiniti?
He's driving a 2011 white Infiniti G37.
G37?
Yes.
Okay. What direction did he leave going?
I have no idea.
You don't know what direction he left going? Do you know where he might be going?
No.
Now, you said he hit your wife. Do you know what he hit her with?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. She's laying in the garage.
Okay.
She has something over her head, and I lifted it up. Her head is smashed so bad.
Okay. Like a tarp over her head?
No, a blanket.
Okay. Do you have like a license plate number by chance?
I don't know.
Okay.
Right now.
That's fine.
Here you go.
Okay.
Call your mom. Tell her to come get you.
Okay. How old is your son?
He's 17.
17? What's your son's name?
Josh Bryant.
Josh Bryant?
Yes.
Okay. Listen, I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay? I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I have lots of help headed that way to you, okay? Is that another kid out here in the background?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, do you think he might be on his way back to you guys?
No, he's left. He's run because of what he did.
Okay. Do you have any idea what kind of caused this to happen? It's okay if you don't. Okay.
I went to get my daughter from the gym. I'm gone 30 minutes, and I come back. We were supposed to go to a pitching lesson.
Okay. And when you just got back home?
Yeah, I got home, and he gave me excuses about where she went. And I needed to work on the dinner. And I started getting suspicious, and then I checked her phone, and the cops are here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so one thing I picked up, and I keyed in on the language again. I went back, even you have to refresh this. He does use very direct language at the beginning. My son has killed my wife. So he was pretty direct there, but I got to tell you, though, the first time I went through this, I was undecided. I mean, it would have been one of those things is we're going to have to separate the father from the daughter, get their stories. Now, obviously, she's young. You're going to have to interview them separately. You got to be very careful interviewing the young girl because I don't know if she saw anything, but, obviously traumatized. And it is her stepmother. Now, here's the question. I don't know if it's her mother. No, it sounds like it's her stepmother, too, because he says, hey, call your mom. So, Anna, call your mom. So, he must be recently remarried, and Joshua and Anna. But then again, that's weird. It's like Joshua is living at the house. So, is Anna living with somebody else? And if Joshua was living with him, that kind of goes into, was he living with dad because Josh was a challenge to raise, and that's why he's going to that alternative school. So many things going there, but I got to tell you, the first time I went through this, I was undecided when I got to the end. It's like I listened to this call a couple times. It's like, I was leaning maybe that he didn't do it because you keyed on it too. You hear the emotion of the girl in the background, but he kind of went up and he went down, and I'm going, I'd be one of those people like, get the fucking police here. Get these people here now. You got to find them. I need an ambulance here now. So I was not able to really make a determination based upon the call. So you have to split them up, interview them, find out what went on, and obviously catching the kid. And if they caught him with the goods, like the weapon and stuff like that, and obviously they got a confession, so that clears the father. But the other thing you have to do is make sure is that, did the father know about this? Did he participate in any way? Because his 911 call is not clear and convincing that he was not involved in this case.
Right. And didn't you say the call came in at 9 p.m.?
9 p.m.
And so I'm assuming he was going to take his son to pitching practice afterwards. That's a little bit late to be going to practice anywhere, isn't it?
I don't know. If you're bored in Oklahoma, I guess not, man. There's not much to do down in Edmond, but...
Well, I know like in Northern Virginia where, a lot of people played ice hockey, it wasn't unusual to have an 11 p.m. game because there was so much demand for the ice rink. So maybe that
all the time, yeah. Who knows? And it could be too, that's the question. But see, in the call too, it doesn't really give you a lot of information too because it's out of context. It says, I went to get my daughter from the gym. I'm gone 30 minutes. I came back home. We were supposed to go to a pitching lesson. Who? You and your daughter, or you and Josh? So you don't really know. So you have to clear that up. But anyway, overall, I thought that this was one of those calls that falls in between. This was not. I gave you an easy one the first time. It's kind of like, this is a. This is a no-brainer.
Clear cut, yeah.
This one you had to work for. Murph, I'm pretty proud of you. We worked through it. We solved the case. Once again.
I sent the wrong person to prison. Sorry.
No, you didn't. The jury did. You don't set the wrong... The jury sends people to prison. We don't.
That's true. That's true.
All right, man. Well, I thought this was a good one. So, hey, guys, if you like it, let us know. Give us some feedback. On this one, this is part 2 of 911. What's your emergency? And like I say, we're going to do this once a month. I do have some wicked calls lined up. I am going to throw everybody for a loop on some of these.
Oh, yeah. And give us your feedback because we want, we want to know, are you enjoying this? Do you think it's hokey? If you don't like it, we're not going to do it. But if you like it, we want to keep doing it. I'm enjoying this, to be honest with you. But the other thing is it tests your sleuth abilities. I think most of the people that listen to us are not in law enforcement. So this tests your abilities. Can you to tell who's guilty and who's not?
And what are the behavioral clues and what are people saying? So, hey, I thought this was fun, though. So, all right. So, you guys, again, we appreciate you guys, you players, you playerettes out there, everybody who's playing this game. And this is really when we get into the game of crimes. Did he or didn't he do this? Right. And does he give anything away during the call that tells us, yep? Does he give us some clues? And this one was a little tough, so.
And a clue to our listeners, listen to the background in these calls because you can occasionally pick up some decent information there. That's what I was trying to do. Going through all this.
Yeah, and the other thing too, we have headphones on. We can isolate sound. A lot of times the dispatcher's listening to this over headset. They got one ear and there's ambient noise, and other people talking. So it's I'm telling you, by the way, final thought, I was impressed with that dispatcher. She maintained even keel. Mm-hmm. She did a really professional job. She didn't, even when he said, I couldn't understand you, even the third time, she says, no, we just have a lot of help going to you as supposed to. Son, are you listening to me? We got lots of help. You got something in your ears?
Are you freaking deaf? And that's an important point because just imagine what his reaction could have been. You're dealing with a death here that is going to be a murder. Just imagine if her reaction had been, oh my God, your head's bashed in. That just incites him even more where you're not going to get coherent reactions coming out of the person that's calling in. So I agree with you. She did a good job.
Did a great job. So kudos to her. All right, guys. Thank you once again. This is the end of part 2. 911. What's your emergency? Players and playerettes. And thank you guys so much for being a part of Patreon. Share this with your friends. Share one, tell one, give them the gift of Murph and Morgan, right?
You never know what surprises we've got coming down the road.
None of them involve frontal nudity. I promise you that. Not like there was on Silence of the Lambs when we did the review on that. So,
that's still gross.
Anyway. All right, guys. Thank you once again for playing the biggest, baddest, most dangerous game of all, the Game of Crimes.